We support the independence of the judiciary, but corrupt judicial officials working with those who vested interests that are benefiting from money stolen from NHIF, who want to perpetuate judicial tyranny and judicial impunity. We will deal with them. We will fight with them. We will not allow them. They will not go far.
He might have received reports because we have the various machineries and agencies that are charged with the responsibility of collecting information. And we would like to engage him so that he can give us that information. Because we all have a responsibility of solving our problems in this country. We all recognize corruption is endemic, it is a problem, it is unacceptable, it is condemned, it is actually a criminal offense.
Watu wachache, wawili watatu, wameenda kotini, wakahongana kotini, mpango hiyo ikasimamishwa. Barabara ikasimamishwa, universal health coverage inasimamishwa, mambo ya housing inasimamishwa. Lazima tuulizane, lazima tuwe na mjadala.
All right, so those are the conversations before the meeting that was held yesterday. The Speaker of the National Assembly, Moses Wetangula, was there. The Chief Justice, of course, Martha Koome, and the President were there. Also present are the Attorney General and the Chairperson of the Council of Governors, Anne Waiguru. And that meeting went on for more than 4 hours. Eventually, a report or a statement came from the spokesperson at the State House, that is Hussein Mohammed, saying some of the issues that are discussed, including the role of every person or every arm of government in as far as fighting corruption, and saying that the executive, legislature, the judiciary agree to individually develop policies, guidelines, regulations, and legislative proposals to achieve the objectives of fighting corruption, improving service delivery, and enhancing institutional accountability of all arms of government to the people of Kenya. Honorable Ruto, as we wait for the pictures of those conversations, tell us what your thoughts are. Of course, the statement is out. We don't know more than what the statement is saying, but essentially, a decision to say that proposals will be presented to the National Council on Administrative Justice on how to ensure that the fight against corruption goes on. Can that be the product of such a meeting of the three arms of government?
Sam, I think it's a right step in the right direction, where these three arms of government come together and discuss issues which are affecting the running of the nation, so that there can be seamless working between the three arms of government. And it is true that there is corruption in each and every arm, whether it is executive, whether it is judiciary or legislature. And also there is incompetence in all these arms of government. And when there is incompetence, Kenyans are the ones who will be suffering. Kenyans are the ones who have not been getting value of their money. Whether this incompetence is in parliament or in judiciary. We have many cases in judiciary which have not been determined over the years, even more than 10 years. People staying in court for years. It's an investigatory arm of justice administration system which is not functioning properly, or is it because of corruption, or is it incompetence? It is important to have a discussion. And I think what the president is doing is becoming pragmatic in his way of leadership, to ensure not only the program which the government is vouching for, whether it is housing program, whether it is the universal health coverage program, but other issues which are not within the government program. We have many cases in our jail. For instance, industrial jail, where we have people who cases have been ongoing, and people came and we withdrew those cases, but they are still in jail. Why? Because a magistrate somewhere has decided that even if the person who accused you came to court and decided that let's not continue with this case, if you are not going to do something through certain people, you still remain in the jail. So there are many issues which need to be discussed, and I think this is first step in the right direction.
So you think the the solution to that would stem from a meeting of the three arms of government?
There's such need for the three arms of government to come together and evaluate themselves and ask themselves difficult questions on what is not working within.
So let's take a case of what you're saying, that there are many pending cases of people that are still in remand, waiting for determination of their cases. So a meeting of the President, the Chief Justice and Speaker Wetangula, how does that resolve those cases?
For instance, yesterday meeting, they agreed to hire more judges in the Court of Appeal, which is a very good product out of that meeting. Probably without that meeting, there will not be such kind of an outcome. We need more judges in our courts. Probably it's because we have few judges. That's why we have a backlog of cases. Probably it may not be the case. It may be because of incompetence. Okay, it means because court processes are not digitized.
Right.
Probably we don't need a judge to be writing using a pen on what every lawyer is saying. So probably we need to digitize our court systems. They need to come down and, to come together and discuss some of these issues.
Why does that require the President? I mean, first, you're saying that one of the gains is the hiring of 36 judges. It was agreed upon yesterday.
Yes.
Since the passing of the Constitution, the passage of the Constitution 2010, very many judges have been hired to the High Court, to the Court of Appeal, to the Supreme Court, creation of different arms within the High Court. Why did you hear of meetings of President Kibaki and the Chief Justice then, President Kenyatta and the Chief Justices those days to agree to hire more?
The challenges of President Kibaki and the other president which have served this nation may be totally different with the challenges which we are facing at the moment.
But the problem,
and I think every leader has his own way of doing things. And President William Ruto has realized there's a problem. One, in judiciary. And not only in judiciary, there's also a problem in legislature. There's also a problem in executive. And these three arms of government must keep on checking each other. So it is good to sit together and ask difficult questions on how these three arms of government are going to serve the people of Kenya. If for instance, because this meeting was as a result of judiciary, if, for instance, the Chief Justice, who is the President of the Supreme Court, the other day they issued a very injunction, kind of, to one of the senior lawyers in the Republic of Kenya. Is it a seriously needed measure for the Chief Justice and his team to come up with such kind of...
You're talking about Senior Counsel Ahmed Nasir?
Yes. Is it really necessary? Yeah, it is within the Advocates Act. They have the powers to do that. But is it really necessary that when you are criticized by one of your clients or someone who comes for your services, then you decide you never hear this person? So there are difficult questions which we need to sit down and discuss. And I think the President decided to take the bull by its horn and let's have the discussion. And yesterday, the meeting has a very good outcome. One, to hire more judges in court of appeal, as well as more judges in High Court. This will go a long way in ensuring administration of justice in the Republic of Kenya is smooth.
All right.
And probably there are many, many, many other things.
I'll get to you. Let me hear first from Honorable Elachi here. Are you convinced that, because the resolutions appear majorly recruit 25 new judges for the High Court, 11 new judges for the Court of Appeal, take proposals to the National Council on Administrative Justice or Administration of Justice on how to deal with corruption, and Honorable Ruto here is saying that for the challenges being experienced in the justice sector, it may be important to have conversations of the three heads of the three arms of government. Are you convinced that's the place of those three leaders?
Let me start on a positive before I go to that and say there is importance for all of us, from the executive to the three arms, to respect each other. Regardless of how you feel, it was very unhealthy in a month of January, when you're starting the year, you are in war, and a war you don't understand. And then now we come to this, because in the issue of corruption, I have always said, if there is a demon that we need to speak all of us about, is a demon called corruption in Kenya, which we ourselves have inculcated as a country, as a people. So it does not matter whether you're in the executive, whether you're in the legislature, whether you're in the judiciary, corruption is across. And so it is a matter that all of us, as a people, you, me, as a people, must decide this culture of taking just public resources and leaving our people very helpless. And then at this level where we just talk as if we cosmetic. In fact, we have made it a normal in our lives. You find somebody really celebrating, telling you how he has this and this, but in his mind, he doesn't remember. In God's eyes, it's not yours. You have stolen, you have taken. It is not. And for me, that should be a discussion for all Kenyans. It is not a discussion for the top alone. All Kenyans seated somewhere do a serious reflection of ourselves, and then we say, we are moving in this direction. With the three arms together, we move. But for this one now, in terms of employment, I think, if I am asked, it is for each arm to see how they're employing. We need to see the process properly, not to go and decide. So does it mean when you decide 36 and maybe you need more, so what happens? So you'll not advertise for more, or what happens? Because in terms of employment, I have said, and with humility in January, that you have the Judicial Service Commission. That is what they're supposed to be doing. It is not a matter, because we accepted this constitution. We agreed it is going to guide us. And so sometimes when we do this way, then we put it into a very, Kenyans start feeling, oh, so is the constitution working, or have we decided to stop it on that one and find ourselves? But yes, for you to sit down and discuss how we move in 2024, very important. For us to ask ourselves a few questions, and I have been asking myself, these three arms were supposed to be, yes, interdependent, but you can work together for the sake of the country. But it did not mean one arm should be very powerful than the other arm. No. And that is where this interpretation...
Is there any that appears to be more powerful than the others?
Well, you see now, when each arm, as I think in Parliament, the one for legislation, our arm is the one we have weakened, let me say this, because we have decided to play in the games of two. Yet, if we followed this constitution, Parliament would have been the most powerful arm than any other. Because you do
So in the current setup,
in the current
which is the more powerful?
In the current setup?
In your assessment?
I'm sorry to say, in the current setup, even though the executive now wants to pull in the way it is moving, it wants to be very strong, yet you remember that's why we devolved power, so that you don't become very strong. But I can see it is coming in. But the judiciary, because the judiciary, when things are not happening right, there's no place any Kenyan can run to now.
So you feel it's more powerful than the other two?
Yes. And
and is there a problem with that?
The problem I have is, where does the ordinary Kenyan run to? Because that judiciary is where the ordinary Kenyan felt would get at least justice. But then now today, you find an ordinary Kenyan, land gone, has nobody. And the moment the judge finishes, it is that way.
Okay.
So what I would wish, but that does not mean, I know we have fantastic judges, to be very honest. In every arm, we have those who would want to see Kenya move in the right direction. Okay. But we also have those who have taken advantage of this constitution and they feel, oh, I am untouchable, I am this. And we need to rework out and ask ourselves. And even when we were doing the national dialogue, how did we miss that we could not evaluate the judiciary? How? That was not the right thing. Yes, you realize we only went back to those political things, but we forgot there was need to bring in something. And you remember at one point, because Kenyans, we need to also empower the ombudsman then, so that an ordinary Kenyan who feels completely, I have had no justice when I have gone to court, then can relook and I know the judges will say, you are allowed to review your case, yes. But if the ombudsman can help me to package it so that I come back to court to review it, so that we have something, a plate where a Kenyan can feel a bit safe.
I hear you, Honorable Elachi, and I want us to take a look at page 17 of the Daily Nation. It's the editorial cartoon of the day. If you can have that on screen. And it's can you have it on screen? Right, so there it is. How do we reinvent this wheel? The wheel is war on grafts. At the front there appears to be, well, President William Ruto. Behind there is the Attorney General, the Speaker of the National Assembly, and Martha Koome, the Chief Justice. They are looking at the wheel and asking, how do we reinvent it? And it appears there's a tape measure there, checking, should that be the width? Or is it, what was this called now? Is it the, I don't know what it's called. I wanted to call it radius, it may not be. But it's an interesting one there. Senator Mungatana, so listening to this and of course observing what came from that statement, is it the work of really the meeting of the three arms of government to determine how many more judges are to be hired, or even to allocate more resources to the judiciary at a time that the judiciary determines what it needs? It approaches the relevant committee of parliament and they make a case for the resources they need. Why do we have to go to State House to have that conversation there?
You know, the statement that was released by the by the State House, Mr. Hussein, gives the general idea of what was happening there. But in reality, we all know, for those of us who have been in government for a while and in parliament, we know that whenever people sit, a lot more goes out. I mean, a lot more goes in those discussions than what actually comes out. But the critical thing for me is that, you see, when we sit together to discuss anything, there is something that develops around the two, three of us that cannot be put in a statement, okay? And that thing is what we are looking for, that you are able to sit down and know that this country belongs to all of us. We are one family, really. And the one family means there will be issues, there will be kukwaruzana. But at the end of it, it is one family called the Kenyan state. So I think this is a very good development. I argued before that the president was not attacking the judiciary per se. I argued in various places that the president was saying, let us have a conversation about the issues. Because look, I'm having a problem. I have development projects which I am pushing. You guys are stopping. The same people are going to ask taxation from me for your salaries, from your what, and I need to push up the development so that I'm able to collect more. It's in our interest. Why are you stopping me? I'm having an issue. Let us discuss it. And I think I have some information that so some people were looking at it like, no, he's fighting the judiciary. And I argued many times that he is inviting a conversation, and a difficult conversation. Remember last year, I was chairing the Shakahola massacre. The commission in the Senate had a very difficult conversation with the clergy. And you see, the clergy is almost like the judiciary because it's unelected but holds a lot of power. Same, judiciary is unelected and holds a lot of power. Unlike the Senate and the National Assembly and the executive, these ones are holding power, yes, but they're reviewed after every 5 years. We don't get to do that with the judiciary. We don't get to do that with the clergy. So for every time you want to have a discussion about clergy, it becomes very sensitive because of the power they wield. Every time you want to have a discussion about the judiciary, it becomes very sensitive because of the power they wield. And there is no other way of prompting a discussion. So, from my thinking, it's that the discussion and the conversation that was being sought, it has now been had. And from where I sit, I think the three heads of the arms of government should have at least a biannual meeting, at least two, where we review, where are we on this and that and the other. And
so tell me this, you say that one of the challenges is that the head of the executive was feeling there are certain programs he wants to put in place so that he's also mopping up of more revenue to help in the service delivery by all arms of government.
Correct.
So that meeting yesterday, how does it help that?
No, I've told you there are things that can be written and things that can't be written, okay? And if you look even at at the media, what media is reporting is that there was a dossier that was handed over to the Chief Justice. Whether this can be confirmed or not, but I am 100% sure that one of the things that must have been raised is that, we have an issue here and here and here. And remember here we're talking about the office of the president. I remember sitting in a meeting where discussions were being held about some political question, and we were a few of us. And one of the issues that the President rose that said, look, I have the misfortune, quote unquote, of sitting here and knowing where you sat, last week for which meetings, where you slept, where you are coming from today. I have the misfortune of knowing all that. So when you are making your submissions, make submissions knowing I know, So the president, when he was raising those issues, some people are saying a lot of things, but I know that there is a wealth of information. And some of this information, some people are saying, present evidence, go to the Judicial Service Commission. But I also ask, we have a lot of things against PSS, against CSS. Who goes to the Public Service Commission to ask them questions? Because some issues, wait I finish, Sam, let me finish my argument. We also have issues against members of parliament, members of the Senate and the National Assembly, but we don't go to the Parliamentary Service Commission because and also there are issues in the Judicial Service Commission. We don't go to there because there is intelligence and there is evidence. Some intelligence, it is true that you met, it is true that you did this and that, but I can't you know, some truth cannot be translated into evidence, but it is there. So correct this, please, because I can gather the evidence if we continue like this.
If there's that dossier that you allude to that was handed to the president, again, you attributed to the media reports. So assuming it's there, and what you're saying based on intelligence, some information was presented to the Chief Justice, what is she supposed to do with it?
No, look, if I came and I told you, son, I know you've been sitting with so-and-so, I know, and we have an agreement that you're supposed to conduct yourself in this manner. You have two options. You continue that way, I will pick up information against you and punish you. But when I'm talking to you and I'm telling you I have seen this, this and that, what I'm inviting is a change of conduct. Okay, what I'm inviting is a good family. So this is what I'm saying. Let me answer you. If you have intelligence, which is not amounting to evidence, and you are served with it, and if I'm the Chief Justice, who is the chair of the Judicial Service Commission, if I receive intelligence, which is not amounting to evidence, and I say, Judge so-and-so, there is an issue, I think as a judge, I would reform if there is an issue. But if there is no issue, then the intelligence should just be left as it is.
Okay.
So for me, the action is, there is an issue here, deal with it, or it's going to spoil your career.
Help me here.
Yes.
So we understand each other. So the Chief Justice has that information. She chairs the Judicial Service Commission, but she's also the President of the Supreme Court. Correct. So she does what with that information? Tells the JSC, tells the judge, in what forum?
You know, not everything happens formally. And maybe the informal has more power than the formal. Okay? Correct. So if I call you and I tell you, look, my friend, you are the governor, okay? And I'm the senator. And I'm telling you there's this and this and this and this. Stop it. Okay? I have also the option of saying, I have this information, I take it to ESCC. That is now the formal. I have this information, I take it to the CID. That is the formal. I have this information, I take it to make a formal complaint against you in the police station. That is the formal. But I have this information, and I call you, I say, Gituku, boss, I think for the good of this county, we need to stop this. You know, that is far much more effective than going to court and doing this and that and the other. So if I was the Chief Justice, even if the intelligence I have does not amount to evidence, but I have my brother judge, my sister judge, I have information against you, or I've been handed over information against you, I will call you. I don't take it to the JSC because that is now being formal. Okay. I would call you and say, look, there's this information, I'm requesting you humbly, if this is true, wachana nayo, because we want you to continue serving this country properly. Okay. And that is the way we build this country.
A problem
I don't see any problem with that.
Powers because, Senator, just a moment, because the procedure of removal of a judge is clearly guided. Yes. And it's supposed to be JSC on its own motion, or a petition may come to it. Correct. To institute a process of removing a judge. Yes. This is intelligence. It's nowhere near what a petition is.
No. Intelligence and evidence is different. And let me do it slowly. Yeah? Every quarrel in the family does not amount to a divorce. Okay? It does not amount to me filing a petition, calling my lawyers, going home and telling my father, my mother, or my wife going home telling his mother or her mother or father. It's not every quarrel that amounts to a divorce petition. And we all live in this society. If you want to build a relationship with your children, it's not every quarrel that amounts to, chase this guy to his uncle. I don't want to see him. Remove them. It doesn't work that way. That's not how the society we live in. So every kukwaruzana ambayo iko in judiciary, with parliament, with the executive. It does not. We have serious issues with the executive. Some of the ministers, you know, I mean, and it's been public knowledge. You as media know that there's been very serious corruption, and those cases are still being followed up.
Okay.
We have issues, but not all of them amount to this minister must be fired. This guy must be done this. So for me, I think these meetings are extremely useful for the sake of this nation, that when I have issues, as Chief Justice, I should be able to call the President, I should be able to call the Speaker of the National Assembly, the Speaker of the Senate, and tell them. And they should easily also be able, as head of Parliament in the National Assembly or the Senate, I should be able to call the President and tell him, this minister and your ministers are not performing. I should equally be able to call the Chief Justice and say, look, man, these guys are giving orders against my job because I'm still on the debate process. Right. So we need to have this interfacing of power, so that at some point, at least twice a year, they should meet. In fact, the law actually forces the president, let me finish, the law forces the president, the constitution, for him to give a report to parliament in a very formal way. Even that report that the Chief Justice was reading out to the public, it's also a report they are supposed to publish. But that's not effective. Interfacing and talking to each other, it really helps to build this nation.
Honorable Ruku, he talks about interfacing of power.
Yeah.
The Constitution talks of separation of power. I'm just wondering if the President has an issue with Parliament, how does he deal with it? And if you yourselves, as parliamentarians, have an issue with the judiciary, how do you deal with it?
I'll give you an example that a member of parliament can be recalled by the people. The Constitution provides for recalling of members of parliament. And we can't say us, members of parliament, all of us, none of us qualifies to be recalled. Probably quite a number qualifies to be recalled. But have we seen any member of parliament having a case for him getting recalled? No. Why? Because there is mechanisms of probably solving any dispute or issues which may be facing us as members of parliament. And that's why we have not seen such kind of petition being forwarded for recalling of members of parliament. Assuming also we have quite a number of them, will those members of parliament be able to do any job in their constituents or even anything in parliament? They'll be very busy trying to defend themselves. Assuming we have an average of petitions to remove judges from their work, those judges will be very busy defending themselves with the lawyers at the Judicial Service Commission. And they will not be able to function properly. Therefore, because they'll be very busy defending themselves, therefore, this kind of a meeting helps in solving quite a number of things. When we hear people saying the Constitution provides ways of removing a judge from the bench, also Constitution provides ways of removing a member of parliament. Constitution also provides ways of removing members of the executive. But if a section of Kenyans, because all of us, we live in this society, we have information, as Mheshimiwa Senator said, we have intelligence, and we can gather all this intelligence and forward to appropriate bodies so that the processes of instituting, removing, whether it is a minister or the PS, whether it is judges, whether it is members of parliament, if we have such kind of a working situation, do you think there is anything which will be done, which will be accomplished by such kind of an administration? Of course, no. But issues are there, problems are there, conflicts are there, ways of looking at things from my standpoint of view is different from the other person. So, because of that, let me finish. Because of that, it is important for people to come together again and again so that we can be able to see things from one perspective.
Why?
It is very important, Sam, for accomplishing things. Because whatever judiciary is doing is doing it for the people of Kenya. Whatever executive is doing it for the people of Kenya. Whatever parliament is doing...
The mandate of the executive is totally different from the mandate of the judiciary. Why do you need to see things from the same perspective?
Yes, the mandate is different, but the goal is the same. The mandates are different, but what you are going to achieve at the end of whatever you are accomplishing your mandate is the same. We are serving the people of the Republic of Kenya. So, executive is serving the people.
Serving the people also includes the judiciary having a different opinion from what the executive may have said, if it is convinced based on evidence and litigation made before them, isn't it?
Let me give you another example. We have construction of roads. That was one of the issues which the President raised. And of course, there are environmental and social impact assessments which are normally done by a body established by Act of Parliament, which is known as NEMA. And we saw the other day, NEMA coming up with reasons why there should be demonstrations. I mean, not demonstration, demolition of building in the city. We saw a huge building around Madaraka area getting demolished. We saw just here from this station in Kireshwa, a petrol station coming down, and many other demolitions because of recommendation of NEMA. Today, if you go back, you realize the same petrol station is back. Was it necessary to go that route? So it is important for people to see
Who brought it down?
the same laws we are talking about. So it is important for people to sit down and say, yes, this is what the environmental impact assessment is saying. It is true, but let's do more research. Do we have such cases? Listen, Sam, do we have such cases in other countries? If they are there, how are they taken care of?
Example, but
so the thing is, we have a road. You know, law was not made for. What do we normally say? Law.
Man was not made for the law.
Yes.
The law that was made for man.
Exactly. So let's sit down. Let's evaluate things. Let's compare the modus operandi of other nations. Because Kenya is not living in isolation, is not living in Ireland. There is so much interdependence of Kenya and other nations. So when we are faced with some of these problems, which may cause us have conflict between the three arms of government, let's have some study cases. What has happened in other democracies when they are in such kind of situation? How do they solve issues? So I think actually, it is important.
In some other jurisdictions, that meeting that happened yesterday would never happen. And I want to use the example of the US. You cannot find President Joe Biden meeting with the head of the judiciary in that country. And if it happens, it's such a big story that can bring a lot of problems.
I don't think, but I don't want to go into that details for now. But from my stand, I know that different jurisdictions or different countries solve their problems in a unique way.
Okay.
And it is important always to compare notes and see when we are faced in such kind of situation, do we apply everything as... President William Ruto can wake up and say, I'm the President of the Republic of Kenya. Within the presidency, I'm given this and these powers. And he start dismissing people right left and center. Is it really necessary, or is it good, first of all, to...
in this case?
As a president, he can even wake up and dismiss his executive. He can wake up and say, even, I have sacked all the generals in the military because of probably a certain problem. But probably calling them and getting to understand where the issues are.
But you see,
you can create more crises. We can create more crises.
I want to hear from Honorable Elachi, but you need to tie what you're saying, because you're saying the president may wake up and fire everyone in the executive, the generals in the defense forces. And indeed, he's the commander-in-chief of the defense forces, so he can do that.
Yes, he can do that.
The executive, he can do that.
Yes, he can do that.
He only appoints judges and chief justice, but he has no power to remove them from office, whatever information he may have or intelligence.
It is true, he doesn't have the powers to remove the judges, but remember, the recommendation of Judicial Service Commission is taken to the president for the final action by the president.
Yes.
So everything starts with the president and ends with the president.
It doesn't. No, it doesn't, because a petition to remove a judge does not have to start with the president. Appointment
of the judge starts with the president.
The recruitment doesn't begin with him. There's an advert placed in the national dailies.
Let me ask you a question.
The JSC interviews and makes recommendation.
How comes that JSC recommended appointment of 11 judges in the previous administration, and President Uhuru Kenyatta refused to appoint them?
What's the point here?
The point is, everything starts with the president and ends with the president. The Judicial Service Commission, can sit down and do the process of recruitment, finish and recommend this number of judges to be appointed, and the president can say, I'm not going to appoint them.
Which was illegal, and several courts made that decision. I mean, made that finding that it was illegal.
Was Uhuru Kenyatta taken anywhere because there was an illegality? The issue, the point is none. So the thing is, what I try to say, Sam,
begin and end with the presidency.
What I'm trying to say, Sam, is that the president and most of the presidents in the world are powerful. They can be able to make decisions which can bring more problem than solutions. In this case, William Samoei Ruto is calling judiciary and legislature. Come, let's sit and let's listen together. Let's see how we can be able to serve the people of the Republic of Kenya better than the way we are doing at the moment.
Do you hear you saying it could be worse?
I'm saying there are decisions which not only the president, anybody, even yourself in your own family, you can wake up and make some decisions which will not solve the problem, but will make even the problem, whichever you are facing, worse.
Well, let's leave the family out of this. But, Honorable Elachi, so we need to exit from this conversation. And, of course, the danger in this is that when people are talking, there could be an illusion that eventually the decisions that come from whichever arm of government are based on the interests of the executive, because they have the power of the purse. Indeed, in a meeting that sits and decides that actually more resources will be allocated to the judiciary, more judges will be hired, there could be a perception challenge that indeed these people now are acting based on the interests of the executive. How do we get rid of this, knowing that Parliament is the one that is supposed to be oversighting, especially the executive?
That's why I started by saying it's like we weaken every day our arm, because all those decisions that were made, indeed, if anyone wants to challenge, the first place and the first door will be back in Parliament. You start the process from there, where you hand in your petition, and because you'll feel this is a petition that is now concerning one arm of government, then you'll take it to the respective institution that is supposed to deal with it. But then, as you said, we borrowed so much from the American Constitution. And I can see we really struggle with our Constitution in terms of respecting it, knowing very well it was us ourselves who decided to borrow so much from the United States. And so that is why separation of powers from these three arms is very critical. That is why Parliament was given the power of budget. Fine, you want to employ judges? Yes. But when you come to Parliament and we tell you the high cost of living is very high, and so we don't see this as a matter now, what will happen then? It means, again, we shall be pushed as Parliament to ensure we have done what the executive has said. And that's why we are saying, and that's why I am saying, it is a matter of, for all of us to start agreeing that we are trying to push everything, and one arm is going to be very strong than others because you have to follow through what they want. I'm not saying it is wrong. I believe, yes, there is need of working together for the sake of Kenyans. I believe, yes, you must ensure whatever you do is within the Constitution and the rights of Kenyans, and especially that does not harm any of all that. But at the same time, I'll say, like one person yesterday, I was somewhere, and I learned one thing. When I listened to everything we are talking here, you realize that meaning of culture eats strategy for breakfast. That is what exactly happened. That is why we are rambling and we are able to just point out and say, look, for the issues to discuss, if you are issues to iron out on how you need to continue separating your powers, that's okay. But if it is issues now that you're going beyond, and yet we have institutions that have been given also responsibility by the Constitution to do those things, then it was wrong. And it is good to say it was not right. It was important to have the meeting to iron out so that the country now moves smoothly and each arm of government gets responsibility on how it's supposed to work. But it was unfair, again, to Kenyans to go and again usurp powers that are within other institutions that they are supposed to be doing. Because if you go now, for the Judicial Service Commission, for example, so yes, they will employ the 36, but we will know it is not on their wish. We would have wanted to see them saying they want to employ 100, start their 100 by recruiting, but end up with your 36. Quietly, nobody would have ever known it came from where. So there is need of cleaning up and knowing there is a constitution in this country we must respect. Lastly, while we appreciate this hybrid, because Kenyans like a hybrid way of doing things, we must always remember it can also put us into, that is why we find ourselves in a lot of conflict. So we will have others who by the time we will be saying we are employing the 36 judges can also go back to the same court and say, no, it was not time. So what happens? And then again we go back to the same issue they were trying to iron out. Oh, there are so many people coming. Kenyans will go to court anytime. The Constitution gives them that right. It is up to the judge. I've always said, if the judges would wish to see in this manner, I have a case here where it deals with the interest of the people. I can judge it in a way knowing, give process in terms of you have to go and rectify a few of these things because you are touching on different acts that are going to bring conflict. And then say, in the interest of the country. But you see, our judges sometimes, one just comes in and gives in a ruling and you wonder, okay, what just happened there? Because you can see.
Right.
Even those that we feel of the interest of the people, you still come and give more pain. Yet Kenyans felt it was through that process they might find reprieve. So for me, as we start the year, can we respect the three arms of government? But can we work for Kenyans, not for ourselves? And can we stop protecting and being very protective of our arms when people will want to come in and criticize? Listen to the critic and reorganize yourself, because all critics might not just be negative. They will be positive, and they will have to change what Kenyans feel this is going wrong. And so for me, even in the executive...
Is there a possibility, is Parliament able to oversight the judiciary as a state organ?
No. How? And we shall start again our own conflict. I'm hoping when the Speaker was there, they also talked about it, that there's many ways. If they can sit down and yet we are the ones, we do the law, they interpret the law, then it is important for Parliament and the judiciary to agree on a few things so that you don't hurt Kenyans every time and so that we don't keep on. And yet we have refused completely, both sides, to bring in a law of public participation, and so it goes to court, and court decides this is how public participation. Why can't we just clean that mess of public participation?
I'm asking that question because my reading of Article 95 of the Constitution on the role of the National Assembly is also the National Assembly exercises oversight of state organs. And when I look through the Constitution...
Yes, we have the powers.
State organs appear to also include the judiciary. I want us to close by looking at the feedback that has come from Kenyans. A Citizen TV Kenya, at Sam Gituku, the hashtag to use is Debrek, that is on X. And we begin with who here? This is J. Musoma. You're saying that the meeting between the president and the CJ is uncalled for. You can't discuss judges or how judgments and court orders should be made with the executive. It's time we discuss the stability of CJ Koome because independence of judiciary is paramount. All right. Someone else is Frank Orinde. The CJ meeting, the executive only means that she was open to give and take arrangement. The president, being a politician, sees the moment, dangled carrots, hiring of judges, cars, budget allocation, and that means the executive expects the judiciary to side with them. Bob Otieno, the dialogue between President Ruto and Supreme Court of Kenya President CJ Koome was successful, with the judiciary benefiting big as more judges are to be deployed and more funds to be added to ease more backlog of cases in courts. Rabi Butia, international declarations such as the 2011 Jomtien Statement recognizes that states should spend at least 6% of their GDP and or at least 20% of their national budgets on education in order to achieve quality education for all. This is in regards to our earlier conversation. Again, when the executive in this country starts a war on judiciary by alleging corruption against senior judicial officers and then shortly calls for a dialogue between the two, I personally read serious malice and unspecified hidden agenda. That's Babu Michael. Godi Baraza Were, clear separation of powers between the three arms of government guarantees total independence and absolute accountability. It would be a fatal mistake if these arms ceded their independence and be controlled by the executive. Engineer Lazaro, meeting between the president and CJ shouldn't interfere with individual judges' decisions. Judges should be patriotic enough to uphold the Constitution and to maintain their independence or fall to the executive and lose their dignitaries. And then Rev Hari, I don't see any harm when the three heads of the arms of government. This will help service delivery and sort out all these messes and corruption allegations. God bless. That's Rev Hari this morning. And Senator Mungatan, I'm told that the dossier you are talking about is in regards to lawyers that have been meeting politicians to plot different things, not necessarily judges meeting.
You never know. You never know.
Judges meeting.
You never know.
Litigants or politicians. Of course, we don't know.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying some things will be said, some things will not be hidden. But these meetings are extremely important for smooth running of the nation.
All right. We could have gone ahead with more. Let
me end by this.
But it's no, we are out of time.
Let me just, as I celebrate AFCON, as we continue, and good teams doing very well in AFCON, but I'll say this, even in sports, players of the same team must play positions. They are assigned if they have to perform. They cannot overlap. We cannot overlap.
Okay, interesting point. They can't overlap. You see, the leadership of the executive is in the hands of the cabinet. The leadership of parliament is in the hands of the parliamentarians, is it the House Business Committees. The leadership of the judiciary is in the Judicial Service Commission. Separation of powers indeed. Thank you, Honorable Geoffrey Ruku, Honorable Beatrice Zelachi, and Senator Danson Mugatana for making time for us of this conversation. This has been Daybreak. My name is Sam Gituku. See you again some other time. Up next is Matters Social with Safin Acheng Ouma.